All right, and welcome back to another episode of Podcast on Fifth Ave. I'm Taylor Haase, typically joined by Julianne Pelusi. She's sick again this week, so hoping to have her back next week. But this week, joined by JD Forrest, head coach of the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. JD, thanks for coming on. How are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. I'm just going to talk about, the start to the season down there in Wilkes-Barre. You're off to a 3-2 start to the season, coming off a big 5-1 win over Hershey. What are your thoughts on the way that the team's played through these first 5 games?
There's been a lot of things to like. Anytime the beginning of the season, you can find a lot of areas that you need to improve. We do have a different look as far as personnel goes, and it presents itself some different options, but also some different challenges with the different players in and out of the lineup. So we're trying to tackle those kind of one at a time, and making sure that while we do that, we have a certain mindset of how we're playing. And there's a lot of system stuff. We have guys from other organizations, and then a little tweak here and there that have been made. But for the most part, the way we want to play is it's more of an attitude and a type of game. And then the systems come kind of after that a little bit. So we want to just instill that attitude and style of play more than anything, and then chip away at those little things that come, as you refine that game.
Yeah, one of those challenges is managing the veteran limit in regards to the roster. So for people who don't know, the AHL, there's a developmental rule, but your 18 skaters, 12 have to be development players. So you can only dress 6 veterans. There's like games played limits in there and all. And you have more veterans than I remember being down there. I believe in the beginning of the season you're scratching 3, then it was 2. Now with Hinostroza up, I think you're down to just scratching 1. But how much of a challenge has that been? Because you're scratching players like Alex Nylander and guys that really deserve to be playing.
Yeah, that's tough. And I we had conversations with those guys that are in those spots. And to their credit, they've handled it as well as they could. Like, no one is happy about it, but they understand the scenario, and there's not a whole lot you can do once you have that scenario. So I'd say that anybody who's had a game and had to sit out and come in has performed at a high level. And then these things always, like, they fluctuate throughout the year. So at the beginning of the year, it's like 9. You're like, oh my God, how are we gonna? We have such good players that aren't playing, and it's not like necessarily fair to them, but it is the way it is. How is this going to work itself out? And now we're actually in a situation where we're at 6, just because Colin White's still out with an upper body. So for this weekend, we have 6 vets, actually 5, and so we're kind of under. So it's going to change throughout the season, and guys get called up and injuries happen. And, I feel like as long as you can get through the tough stretches, and in particular, it's usually the beginning of the year because there's not a ton of games. There's a lot of salary cap things that have to work themselves out in the NHL that might dictate guys being down that maybe would not normally be down. So things happen in Pittsburgh or whatever NHL affiliate there is, and then things happen here. And before you know it, you got one guy or, everybody's playing. So I think that our vets, the guys that have had to miss a game, have handled it tremendously. Like I said, not happy, but understanding the situation, and they've been using the practice reps to make sure that they're ready for the games. So yeah, it's part of it. I mean, it's not an unusual scenario for a team in this league to be in, but it is a little bit new for us.
Yeah, being down to 5, that Andreas Jansson's still away from the team. Is that part of it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's personal reasons. That's
yes.
It? Okay. Yeah. And then Vinny Hinostroza, he was one of your veterans. He got the call up to Pittsburgh. Mike Sullivan said the reason he got the call was he was just simply playing the best of the forwards. Is that your assessment too? And just what have you seen from him?
Yeah, he's been steadily improving each and every game. I think he's got a pretty high standard for what he expects of himself. And the first weekend, I think there's always a little bit of a level of, I wish I could have cracked it right away in the lineup in Pittsburgh. And then you turn the switch and you just start taking care of business. And every single game, every night, he was better and better. we've had a few guys like that. So, I hope he can go up there and help him when he gets a chance to be in the lineup. But he also has a proven track record. He's produced fairly well at the NHL level. He's got some experience there. So I think that also can play into some of these decisions. But yeah, he had a really strong game against Hershey and the prior one against Springfield. So.
Yeah, looking at one of your new faces on the back end, Jack Rathbone, acquired him in the trade that sent Ty Glover and Mark Friedman to Vancouver. He's played a couple games from you now. Just what have been your impressions of him?
Well, he can move really well. He definitely has that. So that's something that in today's game for a defenseman, you can move the way he does. That helps you in a lot of different areas. You can get up the ice offensively. You can go back for pucks quick. He's got a great shot. We're still kind of, he like a lot of the players here, he's got some areas of his game that he has to improve. And we're identifying that, working with him so that we can chip away at getting him, into an NHL situation. But he's got a great attitude. Seems like a really good kid. I actually have known about him for a while now. I think I did a select festival a long time ago where he was involved in that. So I remember him from when he was like 16. And then, being able to talk to some of the guys that have coached him in the past, or at least been around him in the past, has helped familiarize us with him. But it looks like we have a pretty good offensive weapon on the back end that can also make some plays coming out of our zone. And it's not, defensively, he's got some steps to take, but he's certainly willing. So he seems like a brave player out there. He's not afraid out there, and that's always an attribute that helps you out, whether it's going back for pucks or battling at a net front, whatever it is. So we're excited to have him and help him kind of along his path to pro hockey.
Yeah, another new face this year, Mark Johnstone, signed as a free agent this past summer. He was in the Toronto organization. You've had him on the fourth line now. I know Toronto would use him up and down the lineup throughout the year, so it looks like he has that ability. Just what have you seen from him, and do you think he's someone that you can move up to the top six throughout the year if needed?
Yeah, I think we have a number of guys that are we want to qualify as the fourth line. I could argue that it's 3B or 2B or whatever. I mean, they play quite a bit, and particularly Johnny or Stoney and Grudes as a duo on the penalty kill. So both those guys, and there's a handful of guys that we can probably fluctuate up and down the lineup depending on what our needs are at the time. But he's been fantastic. He does a lot of really little things well. He battles like crazy. He's been excellent on the penalty kill for us, and it seems like every little detail of a game plan that you ask him to do, he's out there trying to execute it. So he's very tuned in to what the coaching staff would like from him, and it seems to be able to do that. I mean, it's funny because when he was in Toronto, like he was a pain in the butt to play against, and I do remember vividly him and Gruden going a bit like head to head all the time, and then we signed him, and my first thought was these guys they're going to be so good together, and I don't want to just link them up as they got to be together, but when they do play together, they seem to have a bit of a chemistry and play with some edge. So that's been fun, and I think especially what's nice with Stoney too is he can take face-offs. He takes a lot of big draws for us on the right side and play a little bit of center. So when you have those first guys over the bench on the penalty kill, you got a lefty and a righty who can both take draws and they're going to block shots and know every little part of that penalty kill. It's valuable. So he's really sunk his teeth into that area, and he's been a great guy. Like he's got a really good energy in the locker room, and he's been fun to have.
Yeah, Jagger Joshua's played on that line a little bit too. He was like a fan favorite during that Prospects Challenge in Buffalo. I know you had him a little bit last season too, but just what have been your impressions of how he's adjusted to the pro game now in kind of his first full season?
It seems like he's kind of found a lane in which he thinks he can make a path for himself, and he's committed to it. He plays a physical style. He's not looking to be too fancy. When he gets around the net, he parks himself there. When he has pucks low, he takes it right to the net. He's not afraid to get in the mix, and he's been really responsible on the defensive side of things. We've sprinkled him in on the kill a little bit. We think that can be another asset if he can develop that part of his game. But we really like where he's coming. He's worked on his skating. Like, there's a few areas he knows that he is trying to improve on, and that's the great thing about him is he does it. He works, but he works with a smile, and he's another guy that brings some personality. I love the personality in our locker room right now. It's like we got some characters in there on the good side of things, and that makes it fun every day. There's a little something, I don't know, there's a little something going on every day that makes guys laugh. So I enjoy that.
Yeah. Valtteri Puustinen still looking for his first point after 5 games. I believe he's a -6 Just what have you seen from him in this start?
Yeah, I mean, I think his play is better than his statistics would indicate right now. A few empty netters against 2. I'll add up there on the pluses and minuses. They're not as, that stat isn't as cut and dry as some people may think it is. But I mean, over the course of a season, it may tell a story. But he's playing fast right now. Like, his speed, he's in great shape, the best shape that he's been in since we've had him. And he's able to use his speed more and more, and it's something that you'd see in bursts last year. Now I feel like we're seeing it almost every shift, with him being able to stay on pucks and create some turnovers. And he's been dangerous. He just hasn't been able to put it in the net, which I think more than anything, it's like once he starts, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of those going in. So with a guy like him, it's not if, it's just when, and then when it does start, it's like, watch out.
Sam Hood, 4 points in 2 games to start the year. Just what's the next step from him this season after becoming more of a regular last season? Just what are you looking to see from him?
Yeah, I mean, even like to really grab a spot. So it's been a nice progression with Sam. Starting in Wheeling and improving there until he was the best player down there and producing, and then getting a lot of time with us last year. And being able to chip in, but kind of in and out of the lineup. He started out of the lineup this year. For him, it's that consistency in his game. And even though he's got 4 points in 2 games, so it's not like he's playing, but he's not playing his best hockey. So like that's a great little for him to not be able to play your best and still be able to contribute. Those are some of the things that he was missing prior, where it's like, okay, he wasn't playing his best, and it really it hurt, and he wasn't able to find a way to help us in other ways. And now I know he can play better than he is, and so does he. He's got another level to his game, but he is finding a way to contribute and help the team. So that's one of those things that with experience guys are able to figure out how to do. Like, I don't have my best in it, but I can contribute in one way. And if it's him going to the net twice and then he scores 2 goals because he goes to the net twice, like, there you go. Tonight I'm just going to go to the net and something's going to hit me and go in, or I'm going to find a rebound, whatever. So I think that's part of what he has to do to grow and to stay in the lineup all the time is when you don't have your best, what's that look like? So I'm happy to see him, finding a way to contribute, even though I think like when he plays his best, he's really, really good. And he helps us in so many ways, like every shift. So this has been more like he found a way to help out even when he hasn't had his, I would say his best games yet.
Avery Hayes, one of your rookie forwards. I know Kyle Dubas actually singled him out as one of the standouts in that prospect challenge. What have been your thoughts on how he's adjusted to the pro game so far through 5 games?
Yeah, he's a pretty quick study. Avery's smart. I think one of the things, you have a guy that's as competitive as he is and also has some hockey IQ. That's a good mix for a young guy. And he's been able to. He's had a ton of chances too. Geez, I'm hoping one of them's going to go in for him, I'm sure. But he's been dangerous, and he's a guy that is also versatile. Like, we could throw him on the 4th line, the 2nd, the 3rd, like, similar to some of the other players we have in spots. And when he's going, he can help some of those guys, whether it's getting a puck or making sure that there's somebody being a little bit on the higher side of the game, so that Some guys can do some work down low, whatever it is. He's been a quick study with those parts of the game. And he's brave. He gets his nose in there. He's got a pretty good skill. He's got a weird shot that like a different release. I think it's hard for the goalies to read. So once he gets going here, like I said, he's had a few really good looks. And hopefully we can get him his first one here soon. But he's been playing really well, and he's earned a spot in the lineup here just by his consistency.
Last player I want to talk to you about, Blomqvist. He's won his last 2 games. You're going to need to lean on him pretty heavily now with Magnus Hellberg up in Pittsburgh for probably a couple weeks here. Just what have you seen from Blomqvist of how he's adjusted to the North American pro game and just the AHL in general?
Sure. I mean, he's so calm. He's so quick, but he's so calm, and he hasn't gotten rattled by anything. I think one of the big changes between what he's used to and what it is here is just the amount of traffic, the size of the guys, like battling through all those. There's more shot volume too, especially with the big bodies around the net. So he's done a good job of fighting through some traffic and making himself big. And even if he doesn't see it, he's been able to get a piece of it. And our goaltending, like our goaltending development coach Kane, he's done a great job working with him and helping him in certain areas of the game that maybe he's not as used to. And we try to recreate that for him in practice situations, so it's not foreign when he gets into the games. But yeah, his calm demeanor, he doesn't get rattled by much. I think, if that was a really weird bounce in that Springfield game, or he could have maybe pitched a shutout there just to bounce off the boards, and he still saved the first one. It took two more whacks at it. So, we really like his start. It's been really good to see for us.
Awesome. That's all I have for you. Thanks again for joining us. We'll have to have you back to tie Derek Army in podcast.
Yeah, is it 5-4?
I think it is 5-4 now. So you have some ground to make up here.
I feel like it's been a while now.
It's been a couple of years. But yeah, we'll have to have you back on. It's just they've been giving you the Zoom so regularly. I haven't had
That's right.
But we'll have to have you back on sometime soon. But thanks again for joining us. This is a podcast on Fifth Avenue. We drop episodes every Saturday. Julianne will hopefully be back next week. But subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts or the DK Pittsburgh Sports Penguins YouTube channel if you want to watch the video versions of this. And thanks for listening.
Okay, thanks for having me.